woman couldn't lead the country, and a woman of mixed race.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, you lying sack of It was mixed drinks, not mixed races. True, though, Joe may be demented, but I guess being a conniving, race-baiting loon is the last thing to go. Biden also trashed Trump, asking why he's going after people's...
You won't believe what went down when Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly took aim at The View after Joe Biden's latest headline-making interview. It was like they had front-row seats to a live TV spectacle and brought the snacks. Buckle up, because what followed was a full-on breakdown of daytime drama, and trust me, The View hasn't caught heat like this in a long time. Keep watching to see why Gutfeld and Kelly might have just found their new favorite target.
Have to start with what just happened over the past 62 minutes on The View. And it's not even one of my wacky View clips for you where we just make fun of Sunny or Joy. I mean, we love those. But this is like legit Joe Biden, who's on, well, you guys will tell me what he's doing here. And I'll tell you what Mark Halperin says. He's on some sort of a rehabilitation tour. Well, okay. Anyway, he goes on to The View, and it wasn't rehabilitative at all.
There it was, Joe Biden doing his best impression of someone who suddenly remembered they left their keys in the fridge while answering a basic question. His latest interview was a masterclass in confusion, not in the wow, this was deep way, but more like how was this real? The president practically stumbled through every sentence like the teleprompter was speaking in riddles. Watching it felt like decoding a scrambled text message in real time. And after it aired, no one pounced quicker than Greg Gutfeld and Megyn Kelly.
You know who just stunk up The View. The Bidens joined The View this morning for the entire hour. The audience was caught off guard, but knew something was up when they saw a dozen Secret Service agents and 2 embalmers. There were a few awkward moments, though, when a confused Joe asked if he could bid on the showcase. But was he surprised, Kamala?
Now Greg Gutfeld, if you've ever wondered what you'd get if a sharp-witted TV host and a stand-up comic joined forces, Greg's your answer. The man built a reputation for turning political awkwardness into viral commentary. So when Biden's interview went off the rails harder than an open mic at an empty bar, Gutfeld didn't just crack a few jokes. He practically turned it into a full-blown roast tour, driving that energy straight through The View's latest reaction segment.
A little bit more. Speaking of those around him who covered up his infirmity, or at least that's where my mind went, Dr. Jill was there too, and as usual, came to the rescue. Watch SOT 38.
A lot of just basic issues, and which I won't go into in the interest of time.
The people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us, and they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. Joe worked really hard. I think he was a great president.
She says none of these people writing the books worked for us. Well, one of the first to have his book hit interviewed Ron Klain, who was Joe Biden's chief of staff for almost all of his presidency. And he went on the record saying that Biden thought he was president of NATO. Where was that follow-up, ladies of The View?
Gutfeld's commentary wasn't just sharp. It was like watching someone light a match and drop it on a pile of fireworks. You could feel the tension rise, sense the blast coming, and know things were about to ignite. Gutfeld wasn't just calling out Biden's series of verbal stumbles. He was turning the spotlight straight on The View, which tried to smooth over the entire interview disaster. The way he went in, it was less about political critique and more like hosting a roast in prime time.
It's about The View. It's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Like it's like here, let's look at this political oddity. You know, it's like it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and 2-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy.
Honestly, if The View were any more confident in Biden's performance, they'd be applying for museum status. But no one on that panel seemed to notice the derailment. Biden's interview was a mess, and they acted like it was just a minor bump. That's when Gutfeld really locked in. He wasn't just pointing out Biden's slips, he was tearing into The View like they were the official cleanup crew for a speech gone sideways. He painted them as the ones steering the runaway train, refusing to admit the wheels had flown off. And let's not forget Megyn Kelly. If Gutfeld brought the heat, Kelly showed up with a full tank of fuel. Her style? A masterclass in cutting commentary with a knowing smirk, like your sharpest relative casually dropping truth bombs. As Biden's interview fell apart, Kelly didn't even blink. She calmly grabbed her seat in the front row and started narrating the disaster like it was primetime TV.
How can you now speak the truth when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest. And they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much. We were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're honest scum.
Kelly's strategy was the opposite of Gutfeld's. While he played the entertainer, milking every awkward pause for laughs, she went in with precision. Her approach, cool, calculated, and lethal. Like someone who knows the exact spot to strike, she carved into Biden's performance with the poise of a veteran broadcaster. This is a meltdown, she might have thought, but I'll make it look routine. And when it came to The View, she wasn't letting them slide either. While the panel spun their usual "he's just tired" take, Kelly dropped a reality check that silenced the spin. You could almost hear her unspoken reaction. Seriously, you still believe this? She didn't lean on the usual excuses. No, he's just aging. No, give him a break. Instead, she zeroed in on The View's biggest flaw, not asking hard questions at all. Kelly exposed that what looked like a discussion was really just quiet agreement, and she wasn't having any of it.
Joe's obviously confused, but it was worse during the break, when he kept calling Whoopi Regis.
A full day, and then at night I'd be in bed, reading my book, and he was still on the phone reading his briefings, just working with staff. I mean, it was nonstop.
Right, Jill. And you're an actual doctor. Not one who got her degree off a box of Frosted Flakes.
Let's talk about The View for a second. There's a certain energy around the show, like they think every opinion they give is a major revelation. But after Biden's latest interview, they didn't look like political commentators. They looked more like enthusiastic supporters trying to distract from the fact that their star player kept fumbling. Watching their reactions was like seeing people trying to hold back the truth they didn't want to admit. Gutfeld's whole approach was simple. Why are we acting like this is normal? He didn't hold back, peeling off the filter and putting the whole mess on full display. For him, this wasn't just a slip-up, it was a total disaster worthy of public commentary. And then there was Kelly, like the no-nonsense voice in the room. She didn't cushion the blow or play it safe. Her stance? This is the best we've got. Instead of sympathy, she brought judgment, firm, steady, and crystal clear. Her words didn't need humor to make an impact. They landed all on their own.
A number of books that have come out, deeply sourced from Democratic sources, that claim in your final year there was a dramatic decline in your cognitive abilities. In the final year of your presidency, what is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that. We found ourselves unable to deal with a lot of just basic issues, and which I won't go into in the interest of time. And so we went to work. The projects, the benefits. How do you lead the world without having the best infrastructure in the world? How do you lead the world without having the best healthcare in the world? How do you lead the world without having the best education system in the world? How do you lead the world when you don't have?
You could feel the impact of her words as she challenged both Biden and the media's attempts to downplay the situation. The uncomfortable reality. They were trying to treat it like business as usual, and Kelly wasn't letting that slide. Back to The View. How did they manage to spin this into a no-big-deal storyline? At some point, you start to wonder if they've accepted their role as hype team for whoever's in charge. Instead of digging in, they circled the wagons, tossed out excuses, and acted like Biden's slip-ups were just quirky moments. It felt like watching a panel try to convince you that a downpour was just heavy mist. Gutfeld wasn't buying it. He didn't just go after Biden, he went after The View for enabling it. His take? We all saw what happened, but here you are still acting like this is normal leadership. His punchlines landed hard while Biden's errors kept stacking up. Gutfeld made sure no one missed just how chaotic the whole thing had become.
About that, they asked him about that moment. Watch this, South 36.
When the vice president was here, I asked her if she would have done something differently than your administration over the past 4 years. And because of all the successes that your administration had, I think her response was, there is not a thing that comes to mind.
And Kelly wasn't letting The View slide either. If Gutfeld brought the flair, Kelly brought the strategy, calm, focused, and cutting. Her commentary was like a dart, direct and perfectly aimed. Watching her take on The View was like watching a chess player finish the match in just a few moves. By the end, the damage was clear. Gutfeld and Kelly had tag-teamed a total takedown. Biden, The View, and the media's reaction all got their turn. Gutfeld's dry humor and spot-on timing had people cracking up, while Kelly's serious critiques made sure no one forgot how messy it had all been. Meanwhile, The View tried to spin the story like everything was fine, even as the chaos burned in the background. The aftermath? Just as explosive. With Gutfeld and Kelly leading the charge, The View became the internet's favorite target. The hosts weren't driving the conversation anymore, the audience was, and they turned the whole thing into a viral commentary storm.
Something like this happens to you, like this assassination attempt, and you say something like God was watching me. That is a very unchristian thing to say because it's very narcissistic. What? Well, God was watching me and not watching them. There's something very disturbing.
Not what he said. I should have pulled the plug on that mic yesterday.
That's obnoxious. I don't know what church she goes to. That is how people of faith talk, and the intimation is never, he was looking out for me, but not those monsters. Right. It's no, he was looking out for me. It was divine providence. We don't know why he showed his grace on me, and in another instance, this tragic death. But it's clear he did, and I want to make something of it. I want to do something good with it. That is a completely normal, insane thing for someone to say. It's totally consistent with what I hear Christians in my life say.
Plenty of people pointed out that if they had been the ones interviewing Biden, they'd have at least tried to guide the conversation into something more coherent. Then came Gutfeld and Kelly's sharp commentary, lighting a spark in an already heated atmosphere. On one side, you had Gutfeld's supporters, an entire wave of viewers who praised how he critiqued The View and Biden's performance with near precision, making it clear that pretending the interview was anything but a disaster wasn't an option. On the other side, there were the defenders, those loyal to the traditional networks and their favored figures, who visibly struggled with the blunt commentary. They weren't ready to accept anyone calling out Biden's missteps so openly. But the backlash didn't stay confined to online chatter. It quickly echoed across media outlets. You could feel the tension as every news network realized they had a choice: stick to the usual script or admit that Biden might not be the polished leader he once was.
As you know, in a 22-minute interview with George Stephanopoulos. But sadly, when Joe heard it was Stephanopoulos, he assumed it was this fella. Snuffleupagus. In a recent interview, Dr. Anthony Fauci said he has, quote, no doubt that Joe Biden is capable of serving as president. He says if Biden was really old and weak, he would have had him killed with COVID. True.
In many ways, Gutfeld and Kelly's take forced the issue. News outlets were now under pressure to cover Biden's interview with more scrutiny. There were fewer excuses. Well, not none, but definitely fewer. Some tried to soften the critiques, insisting that any awkward moments were just minor hiccups. But others, they were starting to catch on to what Gutfeld and Kelly had already highlighted. Something felt off. With every hesitation and miscue, more voices in the media began paying attention in ways they hadn't before. But this wasn't just about Biden's fumbles. It signaled a shift in how voices like Gutfeld and Kelly shape public conversation. Their direct, no-filter style didn't just entertain, it changed the tone. It wasn't about sticking to talking points anymore. It was about confronting what was in plain sight. And the public, they were tuned in, clicking, sharing, and reacting to every raw moment. So what does this mean for Biden's image? It's definitely taken a hit. The ripple effects from Gutfeld and Kelly's commentary have made future interviews even more high stakes. Gone are the days when a misstep could quietly pass. Now, every pause, every phrase will be analyzed. Sure, Biden could bounce back with a strong showing. But the lingering question remains, can he? With figures like Gutfeld and Kelly ready to dissect every moment and The View still trying to find the silver lining, the big question is, how long can they keep pretending everything's just fine? Spoiler alert,